Ricochet! 630! Preeminent high flyer! Oh, you gotta be kidding me!
If you've been anywhere near wrestling Twitter or Reddit lately, then you know that rumors have been flying fast and furious about the high-flying sensation Ricochet. Ever since it was reported that Ricochet gave his notice to WWE a few weeks back, social media has been buzzing with predictions and speculation about what the future might hold for the one and only. Will he jump ship to AEW, where he could potentially reignite his rivalry with Will Ospreay and tear it up on Dynamite? Or will he head back to the Indies and New Japan, where he first made his name as one of the most exciting and innovative wrestlers in the world? Or will he somehow come back to WWE? I don't think that's going to be the case, but you guys know how it goes in wrestling. Never say never. Well, these questions have been on the minds of wrestling fans all over the world, and today we're going to try and answer them. But more than that, we're going to take a deep dive into the story of Ricochet in WWE and examine how the company has failed one of its most promising and talented superstars. Because let's face it, Ricochet is a once-in-a-generation athlete. This is a guy who can do things in the ring that most of us can only dream of. Dude's literally a video game character come to life. A walking, talking GIF machine who seems to defy laws of physics time and time again. He's got the athleticism of a young Rey Mysterio, the innate likability of a peak Jeff Hardy, and when he first arrived in NXT back in 2018, the hype surrounding him was unreal. Fans were excited to see the indie sensation tear it up on the black and gold brand against the likes of Gargano, Aleister Black, Adam Cole, and for a while there, it seemed like the sky was the limit for good old Ricochet. So then, what happened? How did someone with the talent and athletic gifts of the man formerly known as Prince Puma end up in WWE's mid-card purgatory for years? And with his contract with WWE expiring a few weeks ago, what's next in store for the former NXT North American champion? Well, this is Grease from Wrestleology, and today we're diving deep into the tale of a man who had all the potential in the world, only to be constantly overlooked, underutilized, and plain mishandled. We'll look at his early days in NXT, his ups and downs on the main roster, try to predict the next chapter of his story, but more importantly, we'll take a look at the many ways in which WWE failed Ricochet. When Ricochet finally made his debut at TakeOver New Orleans in that absolutely nuts ladder match for the NXT North American Championship, jumping off ladders and flying all over the place like Spider-Man, fans were in awe. It felt like the start of something special, and for a while there, it was. Ricochet immediately made his presence felt in NXT, feuding with the likes of Velveteen Dream and Adam Cole, and putting on some of the most exciting matches in recent memory. His athleticism was off the charts, he had the comic book superhero entrance, and it seemed like he was destined for big things in the WWE. But even in NXT, there were signs of trouble on the horizon. Despite his incredible talent, Ricochet often found himself playing second fiddle to other stars on the brand. His feud with Velveteen Dream, while undeniably entertaining, always felt like it was more about showcasing Dream's flamboyant persona than Ricochet's in-ring abilities. And then there was his run with the NXT North American Championship. Now, don't get me wrong, Ricochet's reign with the title was a thing of beauty. He had some bangers against the likes of Pete Dunne and Johnny Gargano, but even then, it felt like he was never really given the chance to truly shine on the brand the way that stars like Tommaso Ciampa, Adam Cole, and Johnny Gargano were. Still, Ricochet's time in NXT was undeniably successful. He had a string of great matches, won some gold, and established himself as one of the most exciting and promising young stars in all of WWE. The future seemed bright for the one and only, and fans couldn't wait to see what he would do next. But then the main roster came calling, and that's when things started to go downhill. From the moment Ricochet arrived on Raw in early 2019, it was clear that Vince McMahon and company didn't quite know what to do with him. Sure, he had a few high-profile matches here and there, but for the most part, he was just kind of there. A background player in people's storylines, a guy who was always on the cusp of breaking through, but never quite getting the chance to do so. And despite some initial success, including a short run with the United States Championship, Ricochet quickly found himself lost in the shuffle of the main roster. He was constantly being shuffled from one meaningless feud to the next, never really getting the chance to build any momentum or connect with the fans in a genuine way. And then there was the Brock Lesnar incident. Oh boy, where do we even start with this one? In case you need a refresher, Ricochet actually had a WWE Championship match against Lesnar back in early 2020. And when I say match, I use that term very loosely. In reality, it was more like a public execution, with Lesnar absolutely destroying Ricochet in a matter of seconds. Now I get it, Lesnar's a beast and he's supposed to be portrayed as an unstoppable force, but do we really need to see him squash Ricochet like a bug? Like, what did that accomplish other than making one of the most consistent and hardworking guys on the roster look like a complete joke? It's moments like that that really sum up Ricochet's main roster run. Time and time again, he's been put in positions where he's destined to fail, whether it's being fed to monsters like Lesnar or being saddled with ridiculous storylines that do nothing to showcase his talents. I mean, let's talk about the whole Hurt Business thing for a minute. Remember when Ricochet and Cedric Alexander were feuding with MVP and his crew? No? Well, don't feel bad, because I think even Ricochet himself has probably tried to forget about that whole debacle. It started out promisingly enough, with Ricochet and Alexander forming a tag team to take on the evil Hurt Business. But then, on one fateful episode of Raw, Alexander turned on Ricochet and joined forces with MVP, leaving his former partner high and dry. Now, on paper, this would have been the perfect setup for Ricochet to truly unlock another dimension to his character and seek revenge on Alexander and company, right? But what happened next? Absolutely nothing. That's what. The feud just kind of fizzled out and Ricochet was left with nothing to do but spin his wheels in the mid-card, waiting for the next opportunity to come along. For the rest of 2021, Ricochet would find himself making up the numbers in the Money in the Bank ladder match, the King of the Ring tournament, and even challenging for the 24/7 title. But even when Ricochet did get a chance to step into the spotlight, it felt like WWE didn't exactly know what to do with the former Lucha Underground champion. Take his Intercontinental Championship run in 2022, for example. That should have been a career-defining moment for him, right? Finally a chance for him to truly showcase his abilities, put on instant classics every week against hungry challengers, restore the glory of the Intercontinental Championship, and establish himself as one of the top guys on the SmackDown brand. Instead, what did we get? A forgettable reign that lasted all of 3 months with challengers like Jinder Mahal and Shanky. Yeah, you heard me right, Shanky. And then to add insult to injury, he ended up losing the title to Gunther on a random episode of SmackDown, not even a PLE. Now, I'm not going to be too mad about that because Gunther then went on to become literally the greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time, but you know what I mean? Like, it did really nothing for Ricochet. But you know what? Just when it seemed like Ricochet's WWE career was all but over, he managed to find a little bit of spark in 2023 and 2024. It all started with a surprise return to NXT in late 2022, where Ricochet had a brief but memorable feud with Carmelo Hayes over the NXT North American Championship. And for a moment there, it felt like Ricochet had finally found his mojo again. In early 2023, he found an unlikely ally in Braun Strowman, and while at first glance it seemed like an odd pairing, somehow it just worked. The two had a brief but entertaining run as a tag team, even challenging the Usos for the undisputed tag titles at one point. And while they ultimately came up short in that match, it was clear that there was some real chemistry between Ricochet and Braun. Unfortunately, that partnership was short-lived as Strowman was sidelined with a neck injury in early 2024. But even on his own, Ricochet managed to have a few memorable moments in the months that followed. There was his feud with Logan Paul during the summer, which allowed Ricochet to display a new side of his character, even involving his IRL partner Samantha Irvin into the story for a little while there, and it really did feel like WWE was finally starting to recognize Ricochet's unique talents and give him the spotlight that he deserved. I mean, remember that Royal Rumble spot with Logan Paul? That was sick.
I don't know, but I guarantee it's highlight worthy. Oh my goodness!
But alas, WWE failed to capitalize on this momentum, and Ricochet found himself once again stuck in random feuds on Monday nights. The rumors on his impending exit from the company had been swirling for weeks, and with Braun Breaker absolutely destroying the man a couple weeks ago on Raw, and pretty much writing him off, the writing seemed to be on the wall. But now with Ricochet out of the WWE, the wrestling world is buzzing with speculation about where he might end up next. And if I was Tony Khan, I would go all out, no pun kind of pun intended, to sign Ricochet to AEW. I mean, just imagine all the insane matches we could get on Dynamite over the next few months. Ricochet versus Will Ospreay, Ricochet versus MJF, Ricochet versus Pac, Rey Fenix, Malachi Black, Kenny by God Omega. It would be fire. It would be insane, and with AEW's partnership with New Japan and other promotions, we could even see Ricochet make a return to Japan and compete in the G1 Climax or Best of Super Juniors next year. And while AEW seems to be the most obvious destination for Ricochet, what if Ricochet shocks everyone and signs with TNA instead? I mean, just think about it. With NXT and TNA's recent partnership, signing with TNA will not only give Ricochet a fresh new set of opponents and a platform to showcase his talents on, he will also be able to make his presence felt on NXT and show the NXT audience a whole different side of the former North American champion. It's kind of like being signed with WWE while also not being signed with WWE. You get my point? Now, while I am super excited to see what the future holds for the one and only, at the same time, it's hard not to feel a sense of disappointment and frustration at the way things have played out for Ricochet in WWE. It's a sad story, but unfortunately, it's one that we've seen play out time and time again in the company that we all know and love. For every breakout star like Becky Lynch or Seth Rollins, there are countless others like Dolph Ziggler and Ricochet who just never quite get the chance to reach their full potential, whether it's due to bad booking, backstage politics, or just plain old bad luck. But who knows, maybe one day we'll look back on this moment as the turning point in Ricochet's career. I mean, we've seen guys like Drew McIntyre and Cody Rhodes leave the WWE, reestablish themselves, and return as main event talents. Maybe this will be the moment that everything changes for Ricochet and he finally gets the chance to show the world what he's truly capable of. We'll just have to wait and see. But with that being said, what do you think about Ricochet's journey in WWE? Do you think WWE dropped the ball with him, or did he just never quite live up to the hype? And what do you think the future holds for the one and only, whether it's in WWE later on, AEW, TNA, or somewhere else entirely? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and drop a like on the video and subscribe if you enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching.